Nicola. Names have been changed. Simon and the Collective. It's high time for me to come clean to my husband, having been haunted by a dark secret for over a decade. We are celebrating our 30th wedding anniversary in Vienna, and my husband, let's call him Keith, is in such a good mood I'm likely to survive this bombshell. Either that or he will choke on his Wiener Schnitzel. Several years ago I returned home, so I imagine they are amongst our listeners around the world.
Using the app.
Using the very fine Credit Suisse Radio app.
Big fan.
Several years ago I returned home after a long day at work in the big smoke to find my usually happy and cheerful household in a sea of anger and bitterness. My placid Keith was not himself, stomping around the kitchen, ranting and raving. My children were cowered behind the settee, trying to placate him with emphatic nods and utterances of terrible, so inconsiderate. I was shocked to have walked into this maelstrom. What on earth had happened? Well, it turned out that the day had started okay. Whilst I was up in London, at work, Keith had taken the kids for an enjoyable day out, which was topped off with a meal at a fast food establishment south of Salisbury, the type with the golden arches. So I realise I'm getting a second consecutive mention on the show. At this stage, it's important to understand that Keith's Mini Cooper was his pride and his joy. He was sporting a gorgeous blue soft top in Bath rugby colours. As long as I have known Keith, he has always had a Mini. They're small, fast and agile. A match for Keith's personality. And you know what they say about men and cars, and so on.
Yep.
Thanks, Nicola. Anyway, back to the story. My family finished their food, apparently. Laughing and joking, they returned to his beloved Mini, only to see a massive dent in the back bumper. Keith was horrified. There was no note, no confession. The culprit had left the scene of the crime without any admission of the damage done to his precious car. He stalked around the car park, scanning all the other cars for the slightest hint of matching paint. He requested CCTV footage from the fast food chain, who said his car was parked out of range of the cameras. A blind spot indeed. Livid, he returned to the car and sat in it, scowling at potential perpetrators, leaving the... He looks like he might have done it. She might have done it. Ready to pounce on anyone who showed signs of guilt for this heinous crime. Some people, he believed, were walking in a guilty manner.
Yeah.
That is definitely true.
Yeah.
You size people up immediately and go, I did it.
It was them.
The kids, knees tucked up to their chins in the back of the Mini, sat in silence, exchanging worried glances about Dad's unusual behaviour. Needless to say, the day out was not the happy, joyful one anticipated, and Keith remained in his grumble for several days. The house, a minefield of eggshells, if indeed it's possible to have.
I don't think it is.
A minefield of eggshells. It's either a minefield or we're walking eggshells.
Anyway.
You get the idea. In fact, he was so disgruntled that to this day, whenever we pass the same restaurant, he retells the story, and it casts a shadow on him until he forgets about it again. So, Simon, says Nicola, it's my turn to fess up.
Oh, no.
That morning, when I set off for London at 6 a.m, in the dark, not quite awake, with my usual dyspraxia, I reversed right back into my husband's car.
Oh, no.
A horrible, gut-wrenching crunch rang through the air. I checked the damage briefly, but it didn't seem too bad.
Oh, no. Fine,
Of course not.
In the pitch black.
Yeah.
No lights came on in the house, so the crunch hadn't disturbed anyone's sleep. And rather than disturb their slumber, I thought I'd sort it out later, as I had a train to catch. So I set off promptly for the station. I felt awful about it and decided I'd phone him from work to apologise. My intentions were honest, but the day became so hectic, I totally forgot.
Oh.
In fact, it's completely slipped my mind until I was at home and encountered Keith's fury. When I walked in and realised what had happened, I felt terrible. I should have come clean there and then, but I was a coward, and in that moment, as he stomped and ranted around the kitchen, I decided to let someone else take the blame for my sins.
Very good.
And so, Simon and the Collective, I feel I can no longer keep this secret from my lovely husband, who has given me 30 years of happy marriage. Excuse me. I seek your forgiveness for not admitting my guilt. I'd like to ask forgiveness for The other Mackie D customers who were exposed to a wild man stalking the car park with an accusative stare, to my children for experiencing the wrath and the embarrassment of a raving father, to his lovely little Minnie, which ended up with a large bump for several months due to my dreadful sleepy-eyed reversing, with our cars parked alongside on the driveway. I thought he'd eventually notice the dent perfectly matched the height of my car bumper, but he never noticed. And mostly to my darling husband, I am so sorry for the damage caused to your pride and joy, for being a coward and keeping this from you all these years. I hope this doesn't overshadow our next 30 years. Dear Simon and the collective, please be gentle with this dishonest dyspraxic. I mean, I'm not sure what the dyspraxia's got to do with it. Very nice
Yes,
mix.
smooth.
Like it.
There. I mean, basically, it was dark and you reversed into his car. I mean, I
Yeah.
don't think it's dyspraxic. But anyway, I'm not an expert. Sister Susie from the pub.
Well, it's the dishonesty here that I don't like, because, you know, if there's a crunch, then there's definitely some damage done, right? There's,
Yeah.
you know, it's like, even if it was pitch black and you couldn't see it in the dark, if it's made a crunch, then you've definitely done something wrong. And, you know, maybe you could have just popped him a text or a, you know, little message to tell him there and then.
Love you, bashed your car. Sorry.
Yeah, love your bashed your car, fix it later.
XO.
And that might have been fine. But it's the fact that you forgot about it, and then you also didn't tell him when you saw how angry he was. Now, I understand that, but still, you should have come clean. Sorry, Nicola. I'm not going to forgive you.
Okay, 1-0 down, Nicola.
Am I alone in thinking that maybe Keith should be responsible for looking about whether his car has got a bumper before he drives it? I think I probably am in the right there, that really it should be down to him to look around his car
So it's
and
his
see
fault.
whether it's got a bumper.
It's
Yes,
his fault.
it's clearly his fault. And also, when life hands you a get-out-of-jail-free card, Suze, I say take that with both hands.
Yeah, I bet you
Life
do.
giving you lemons, bringing the lemonades, and
what?
a get-out-of-jail-free card. So for that reason, I choose to forgive.
Surprise, surprise.
You lost on me. The morals of a sewer rat.
Correct.